Hello everybody, welcome back to Expedition Homestead. I hope you're all having a wonderful day. Today's episode is going to be a really quick tip about your onions that you're going to want to know, and that has to do with them flowering and bolting, because we don't want our onions to bolt, and I'll tell you guys just about what you need to do when you do see them flower in order to make sure that your crop doesn't get ruined. So right here behind me is a bloomin' onion. And unlike those bloomin' onions that you get at the fair every single year or at a special event, these blooming onions are not quite as good. These are not what we want in the garden. Now, onions bloom for several different reasons. If we get some really cold days in the middle of summer, that can trigger them to bloom. And in fact, I think that's what triggered a couple of my onions. See, we've got another one right there. A couple of my onions to bloom is because we had a couple of days that were unseasonably cold right after a really hot streak. So what that cold snap does is it kind of triggers the onion into thinking that the seasons are changing and that now it's time to reproduce and seed and flower. So unfortunately, there's nothing you can really do about this. Onions will flower whether or not you like it. And one thing you can do to avoid flowering onions is do not buy onion sets, but grow by onion seed instead, because those onion sets might be part of a second year's growth. So therefore, it's going to be more easily induced to flower. So these onions right here that I'm growing, they're onion sets. So that's why I'm thinking that I'm getting a lot of onion flowers this year. This is going to be like my fourth or fifth onion that I've had to pull out because they're now blooming. So that leads me to my next topic, is what happens when they do bloom. Well, you pretty much got to pull them out, because they're not going to grow much more from this point on. And as they continue after it starts to flower, you're just going to diminish the quality of your onion over time. So you're much better off just pulling them once you see that they're blooming. So this one right here, we'll pull that up and essentially use this as like a green onion in the kitchen. And then one back here. Again, pretty small onion, but when they bloom, they bloom. There's nothing you can do about it. Just make sure that you guys get them out of the ground as soon as they start blooming. And another thing that is definitely worth noting is that once your onions bloom, those onions that have bloomed are less likely to hold for long term in your storage. So wherever you keep your onions, the ones that have bloomed, maybe keep them off in an area that you're going to use very shortly, because they're not going to store as well as onions that have not bloomed yet. So that concludes today's video. It's an unfortunate event, but when growing onions, especially onion sets, it's something that we're going to come across. No matter how experienced you are, you're going to have onions that bloom. So even massive onion growers and farmers that do this for a living still come across the same problem. So don't feel bad. It's nothing that you did wrong. It's just a certain time of the year, certain weather patterns, certain things that just trigger these onions into blooming. Nothing we can do, but at least we still get to eat them. So with that being said, if you enjoyed today's video, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe if you've not already done so. We've got a ton of awesome content here on this channel year round in Wisconsin. Happy gardening, and we'll see you in the next episode.